Ever pause to consider the hunger crisis currently gripping the states? It's an issue that might not be regularly occupying your thoughts, but it is indeed an alarming reality. The statistics paint a dire picture. It might be surprising to hear, but as of the current period, nearly 1 in 8 households struggles with food insecurity. This is not a trivial issue that can be overlooked. The definition of food insecurity is, in essence, the lack of access to enough food for all household members to lead an active, healthy life. It's a problem that lurks in the shadows of our society. When we break down the statistics, it becomes even more shocking. We're talking about around 17 million households in America, an incredibly significant portion of the population. This isn't something that has suddenly sprung up. On the contrary, this number has been gradually but steadily rising, particularly in recent years. The reasons behind this rise are varied and complicated, everything from increasing living costs, stagnant wages, and an ever-widening income gap, to other systemic issues like lack of access to healthy and affordable food options, especially in low-income neighborhoods. It's easy to dismiss these statistics as mere numbers on a page, but each digit represents a family, a child, an elderly person struggling to have enough to eat. It's a humbling thought that forces us to remember the harsh reality of the ongoing hunger crisis. This is a significant problem that continues to grow and adversely affect the United States. Always remember, behind this shocking statistic, there are real people with real struggles. It's a daunting thought, but it's also a call to action for all of us. That's around 17 million households, a number that's been steadily rising, particularly in recent years. In the land of plenty, why are so many going hungry? The answer to this question is not as straightforward as it may seem at first glance. It is a myriad of interconnected factors, each often exacerbating the other, creating a cycle of poverty and hunger that is increasingly difficult to break. Let's take a moment to delve deeper, to untangle these intertwined threads and understand the driving forces behind this disheartening reality. The first contributing factor, and often the most readily apparent, is inflation. As prices continue to rise, the cost of living skyrockets, making it harder and harder for families to meet their basic needs. The price of food is not exempt from this upward trajectory, and what was once a small portion of the household budget has now become a significant financial burden. From the cost of ingredients to the cost of transportation, every step along the way adds to the expense. For many, nutritious, wholesome food is no longer an affordable option, but a luxury out of reach. The global pandemic has added another layer of complexity to this issue. The end of federal support post-pandemic has hit the most vulnerable populations particularly hard. Programs aimed at alleviating hunger, like the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, have seen a significant decrease in funding. The government's assistance, once a lifeline for families struggling to put food on the table, has been reduced, leaving many to face hunger and food insecurity alone. However, the problem is not solely a lack of resources. The efforts by policymakers to boost these programs, while commendable, are not keeping pace with the escalating need. The between those who can afford to eat and those who cannot is widening, and the traditional approaches to address this issue are proving to be insufficient. The current administration has taken steps to tackle this issue, announcing a $1.7 billion initiative aimed at combating hunger by 2030. And while this is a step in the right direction, important to recognize that it's just that, a step. Experts are pointing to deeper structural issues within the economy that are contributing to food insecurity. Economic inequality, systemic racism, and the effects of climate change all play a role in perpetuating hunger and poverty. And unless these underlying issues are addressed, progress will be slow and hard-earned. As we grapple with this issue, it's crucial to remember that behind each statistic and policy discussion, there are real people struggling. Hunger is not just a social issue, but a personal tragedy for those experiencing it. Even as the current administration has announced a $1.7 billion initiative to combat hunger by 2030, experts are pointing to deeper structural issues within the economy that are contributing to food insecurity. It's a sobering fact that the United States has the highest rate of people struggling to buy enough food among G7 countries. A stark reality that points to the gaping social and economic inequalities that persist in the nation, despite being one of the wealthiest in the world. This issue does not exist in a vacuum. It is deeply interconnected with other problems like poverty, unemployment, inadequate housing, and poor access to education. The United States, often considered a global superpower, is now facing a significant challenge that is causing distress and hardship to a significant portion of its millions of people across the country are grappling with hunger, unable to afford or procure enough food to sustain themselves and their families. This is not a crisis that has sprung up overnight. It has its roots entangled in the long-standing systemic issues that have plagued American society. The grim and alarming statistics paint a worrying picture. Not only do they to a deep-seated humanitarian concern, but they also highlight a major political issue. The urgency of the situation has sparked fierce debate across the country, drawing the attention of politicians, policymakers, and the general public alike. Perceptions around the handling of food insecurity have become a contentious topic. Public opinion is divided, and the ensuing discourse could shape the political landscape of the country in the years to come. The upcoming elections are expected to be a litmus test of the government's response to this crisis. The balance of power could very well hinge on how effectively this crisis is addressed. The government's ability to tackle food insecurity, implement effective solutions, and ensure that every citizen has access to basic needs will be scrutinized, ultimately influencing the outcome of future political contests. The stakes are high and the future remains uncertain. So, what can be done on a personal level to navigate this landscape? Living in this complex environment can seem overwhelming, but there are ways to turn things around. It starts with gaining an understanding of the local resources available to you. Each community often has a unique network of support structures in place, from soup kitchens to food banks, from charity organizations to volunteer groups. Many of these establishments are specifically designed to aid those in difficult circumstances, providing food, shelter, clothing, and sometimes even financial support. It's important to familiarize yourself with these resources. Try to identify which organizations are active in your area, on the internet, ask neighbors, or reach out to local community centers. Once you are aware of the resources and services available in your neighborhood, you can begin to create a plan. This may involve visiting a food bank a few times a month or signing up for newsletters from local charities. Don't ever feel ashamed or embarrassed about using these services. They are created with the sole purpose providing assistance to those in need. The people who work for these organizations are usually compassionate individuals who genuinely want to help. So don't hesitate to take advantage of these resources. They are there to help. In addition to benefiting from local resources, consider becoming an advocate for increased funding for programs like SNAP. These programs are government-funded initiatives focused on providing nutritional assistance to low-income individuals and families. While these programs are currently underfunded, they represent a lifeline for millions of people. They have the potential to significantly improve the quality of life for those in need. You can advocate for these programs in several ways. Participate in local town hall meetings, write to your elected representatives, or start a petition. Social media can also be a powerful platform for spreading the word about these programs and garnering support. It's important to remember that public pressure can greatly influence policy. While these programs are currently underfunded, they represent a lifeline for many, and public pressure can influence policy. In conclusion, the hunger crisis in the United States is a pressing issue, driven by an amalgamation of factors like inflation, reduced federal support, and deeper structural issues within the economy. Life's fundamental sustenance, food, has become a luxury for many, an irony in a land known for its plenitude. The repercussions of this crisis are far-reaching, touching all aspects of society and making it a matter of grave concern for everyone. Inflation, a harsh reality in the ever-fluctuating economy, is a significant contributor. As prices of essential commodities rise, many families find it increasingly hard to afford basic nutrition, pushing them towards food insecurity. The situation is further exacerbated by reduced federal support. A grim setback for those dependent on the government for deeper structural issues are also at play. Issues such as wage inequality, unemployment, and the rising cost of living constrict the purchasing power of many, pushing them into the clutches of hunger. A systemic change is required to rectify these deep-rooted issues. However, amidst the bleak reality, there are efforts underway to combat this crisis. Multiple organizations are working tirelessly to provide food support, while the government is looking for effective policy changes. Yet, it is clear that these interventions are not enough. We have a long ahead, and more needs to be done on both a national and individual level. Understanding is a key tool in this fight. Knowledge is power, and understanding the factors that contribute to this crisis, from the impacts of inflation to the causes of income disparity, is the first step towards addressing it. Being informed helps us make responsible choices, be it supporting local businesses, reducing food waste, or advocating for policy change. Staying involved is also crucial. There are many ways to contribute, from volunteering at local food banks to donating working on food security. Every action counts, and together we can start making a difference. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding the factors contributing to this crisis is the first step towards addressing it. Stay informed, stay involved, and together we can make a difference. Thanks for watching.